On today's podcast, we talk about what to do if you're facing foreclosure and your home is hit by a natural disaster. Hey, what's up, Foreclosure Fix family, and welcome to another episode of the Foreclosure Fix podcast, where our goal is to help 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure. Now, if that mission resonates with you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. It helps the algorithm, and it definitely helps more people engage and connect with our content. Or better yet, you can get them a copy of our latest book called The Foreclosure Fix, 12 Proven Steps to Beat the Bank, Escape Foreclosure, and Turn Your Property into a Profitable Asset. Now, as I record this podcast, literally there is a hurricane pummeling Florida right now, or parts of Florida, I should say. And our thoughts and prayers definitely go out with all those who are impacted. I know there will be widespread devastation, and I already know that there's a state of an emergency there. I have friends in Florida who have evacuated, who have flown out to other places. And so, again, our thoughts and prayers are with all those around the country and around the world who are impacted by natural disasters. It seems like they're happening so frequently nowadays. That being said, on today's podcast, we really want to dive into what to do if you are facing foreclosure and you are unfortunately hit by a natural disaster. We're going to talk about how to prepare, what things you should do right now, even if you're not in the area that typically has disasters, and the best way to move forward after a natural disaster. There's lots of nuances and things that we have found out in our experience that a lot of people just don't know, especially as it pertains to what happens in the foreclosure process. And so today we just want to hit those things at a very high level, as we know many people around the country and around the world are getting impacted by things and events that they have no idea will ever happen. And the sad part about it all is that a lot of people, especially in places like Florida or North Carolina, are underinsured. And in those scenarios where, you don't have flood insurance, but your house is flooded, what do you do? And so that being said, I really want to talk to all those folks who find themselves in situations that they never thought they would be in, to hopefully bring some help, some education, and then also just to help those who are in a good spot right now get and maintain and keep that beneficial position they're in by getting this knowledge and education. So with that, we are going to dive into a few things. The first thing I will say is that when you think about natural disasters, we live in a great country, and I will say that FEMA does a phenomenal job in trying to provide resources, trying to provide help, and deploying resources as quickly as available. I know that in other countries, they don't get that same response. And so I am grateful for our government. I know that we are in that political season, and there's so much tension and drama and chaos sometimes as it pertains to if you are going to vote for one candidate or the other. But I want to say is that the things and systems our government has in place are really phenomenal. If you go to the FEMA.gov website, you can easily see tons of resources, tons of places, and tons of ideas, tips, and things to help you if you are facing a natural disaster. So to that end, the first thing I want people to understand about natural disasters and your house during a natural disaster is that things typically slow down. And when I say things, I'm talking about specifically government agencies, governmental processes, and the court system. And so if you are facing foreclosure and you're facing a natural disaster, even if you're like, hey, my foreclosure is supposed to be, tomorrow, and a natural disaster hits today, most likely that foreclosure will not go through. And what I mean by foreclosure, if it was a foreclosure sale scheduled for tomorrow and you guys got hit with a natural disaster in Florida today, I highly doubt that foreclosure will continue. Typically what happens in situations like that is that everything is kind of pushed back for at least 30 days, if not more. And it really depends on the type of devastation that takes place. So typically you see courts being closed, you see the community in disarray. And so everybody is, just trying to figure out what to do. If you have water damage and storm damage or hail damage or fire damage, if you're on the West Coast with some of the wildfires that have happened, then you will see things just really slow down. And so just be prepared for things to slow down and things to be disarray and for people not to answer the phone and for things to be very chaotic and hectic. That is normal. The other thing is that before the foreclosure is reactivated, the bank will typically want to assess the condition of the property, right? And so they want to assess how much damage has been done to that region. Is it something where it's a short pause or something where it's total devastation like Katrina was, and you have to really go in and evaluate what's going on and if the assets that were there are still actually there or valuable. The last thing is that depending on the damage, your insurance company may get involved. And so if you are delinquent on your mortgage, obviously the lender may have forced place insurance if you stop paying your insurance. And so that insurance piece may get involved. And so what I'm telling you is that if you are in an area or in a situation where a natural disaster is about to strike or recently did strike and cause devastation, things definitely slow down. Recently we had a tornado here in Georgia, and I'm specifically speaking about Spalding County, which is made up of some areas like around Griffin and things like that in Georgia. And it was declared a natural disaster, and many people didn't have power for weeks at a time. There are numerous houses that are just now, maybe a year or so later, being demolished, right? And so the whole process takes time to, one, rebuild, and then two, figure out everything that's going on. First things first, the city is going to want to try to get all the utilities back connected. They want to assess the damage. They want to get any debris that's stopping traffic and things like that. So there's a priority list. And oftentimes, courts are not the highest thing on that priority list. We recently also had a chemical fire in Rockdale County here in Georgia. And that chemical fire was not a widespread thing, but it did cause, Rockdale County to shut down for over a week. And so their court shut down, numerous businesses and establishments in that area had to shut down, and it pushed everything back. I had a buddy who had some court cases on the schedule for that week. And guess what? Now his court cases are scheduled for 2 and 3 weeks out, although he was supposed to already be going. And so it just pushes back the legal calendar. And if the courts are already bogged down, it just pushes everything back even more substantially. And so the first thing to remember is that things slow down when natural disasters happen. Right. And so for you all, there's a couple of different things that I want to go through is that I want to think about what to do before a disaster happens, as you prepare for the disaster, and then what to do after disaster. And so before a disaster happens, and this is what everybody should be doing right now. These are the type of things I'm doing for my own family, is that one, you want to check your insurance policy. You want to know what is covered. And it's easy to get insurance on your property and just forget about it. I know every year when my renewal comes, I look at it, I tell my insurance agent, please shop it, try to get me the lowest rate. And then it comes back and I just pay it. And I really don't look and see, are my coverages adequate? Do I have, terrorism insurance? Do I have flood insurance? Do I have other coverages that are needed that could be very cheap or very minimal as it pertains to the benefit they add to my policy? And so definitely you want to check your insurance policy to make sure you are covered. If you have a good insurance agent, you definitely want to talk to them, understand what's included, what's not included, understand your deductible, understand all those things that are important to you as a homeowner about the policy that you're paying for month after month after month. The next thing is you want to take photos. You want to take photos of your house. You want to have a video, preferably of the outside and inside. Take photos of any valuables. I'm talking about diamond rings. I'm talking about car collections. I'm talking about TVs. I'm talking about all that stuff. Just take photos of them. Everybody nowadays has a smartphone. And so taking photos and storing them is not very difficult. I understand back in the day when we used to have Polaroids and things like that, it was much harder to, take photos and keep them because oftentimes those photos would be destroyed. But now it's so easy to have stuff stored in the cloud, which is what I recommend, is that, if you don't have like a Dropbox account or a Google Suite account or some type of cloud storage, email them to yourself and then let your email inbox be that kind of storage for you. you. Again, these are small, simple tips just to have that information readily available, because again, God forbid, if you do lose everything in your home to some type of natural disaster, you can't say, oh, it was saved on my hard drive. You want to be able to access that information from anywhere in the world. And so it's very, very important that you save all that stuff, the pictures, the information, Social Security cards, passport, scan all that stuff in and have all that stuff readily available for you and your family, because when you need it and you're frustrated and you're stressed out, it's going to be very, very challenging to try to find that stuff. But if it's on the cloud and you know exactly where it's at, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of stress and a lot of frustration. The next thing is that you want to have an emergency plan and emergency kits. And the emergency plan does not have to be super elaborate, but it needs to be a plan in place. Like, so for example, in my house, we have an emergency plan that says if we ever have a fire, we go out this window and we meet at this place so we can account for everybody. So the plan doesn't have to be so detailed, because again, a lot of these things, if you're evacuating, everybody should be gone and y'all should be together. But you just want to have a plan in place if an emergency happens, like an earthquake or a tornado or whatever else may be the case, that is not something you evacuate for. That's something that just can pop up. And you want to put yourself in a position that you can account for everybody very, very quickly if you can't get in contact with them, because oftentimes cell phone services may be down, power may be out, it may be a lot of debris and rubble, and it may take time to get to people. And so you want to have some type of game plan or plan in place. You also want to have emergency kits, and just in case somebody is injured or damaged, or injured or bruised or something like that, and you can't get emergency services to you fast enough, you want to have an emergency kit at your house to be able to make sure that whoever may be injured can get some type of medical care, even if it is you being the one providing it to them. Those are all the things I recommend people do before a natural disaster strikes. So that's before. Now, if you are in a natural disaster area, how do you prepare, right? So you heard that a hurricane may be coming, or you heard there may be severe weather. How do you prepare? The first thing you want to do is you want to listen to your local government. You want to listen to your local government. Obviously, your local government is boots on the ground. They're in your community. They're not far away. They're the people who know what's going on in the community. So you want to listen to the local government. If they say evacuate, you want to evacuate. If they say hunker down and schools are closed or businesses are closed, you want to listen to that. And I know sometimes in our culture, we get that, oh man, it's going to be fine. I've been through, 10 different natural disasters and I'm okay. And I'm just going to, ride it out. I'm going to be driving. I'm going to do whatever. You want to make sure that you are listening to local government, because at the end of the day, they allow you to put yourself in the best possible position. And yes, are they wrong sometimes? And they say it's going to be really bad and it's not that bad. Yes, that's very true. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather they be wrong and you be alive than you think that you're going to, beat whatever disaster is coming and you end up, dead. Or worst case scenario, you end up in a situation where you have to have emergency rescuers go rescue you and one of them end up dead because of your lack of self-control to be able just to listen. All right. And so just please be mindful. Listen to local government. The next thing is take the necessary precautions. Evacuate if needed, or if you're hunkering down, please hunker down. And for those of you who are saying, DJ, you just don't understand. It's so expensive to evacuate. I got to go get hotels. I got to drive. I got to do all this. I'm facing foreclosure. I'm living check to check. I need help. I can't do it. Again, I totally understand. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather see you and have you alive than have you be deceased, right? And so at the end of the day, it is expensive to evacuate, but your life is more valuable. So I want to make sure that you do that. And so that's how you prepare. Board up your house if you need to, if it's a situation. If you are in a situation where, you are facing a tornado, please go down to the basement or the lowest level of the house. If you don't have a basement, you want to kind of go inside the kind of center walls of a house so you're safe. And so you can be protected and make sure you don't have objects near you that could potentially be damaging to you if the wind starts blowing. If it's a wildfire area, you definitely want to be evacuated out. And I know it's difficult to leave your home, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're listening to your local government. So something terrible happened, a hurricane, a tornado, or earthquake, a wildfire, a glacier, whatever it may be. I don't know. There's so many new natural disasters, just torrential rain for 40 days and 40 nights, something we never expected happen, right? So what do you do after, right? The first thing is that I need you to set your expectations accordingly. This is going to be stressful. It's an unexpected event. It's going to be a lot to deal with, and it's okay to be depressed. I guarantee you that if you look online and you look at the FEMA website and things like that, there is not only help for you in the, with resources that are physical, like food and water and things like that, but there's also emotional help and support. And this is a stressful time. So no doubt in my mind, is it a bad thing to feel like, what the heck just happened to me? All right. And so this is stressful. Expect it to be stressful. Expect it to be frustrating. Expect to be upset. Expect it to be a very difficult thing to go through. However, you need to try not to get overwhelmed. This will be a long process. As I said, things slow down when natural disasters happen, but you want to approach it with the mindset of that things are going to get better. And that being said, if you are returning home after a natural disaster, you want to be safe. You only want to return home when the local authorities have said it's okay to do so. So don't just try to come back the next day because you think the hurricane is gone or because you think everything's okay. Wait for local authorities to reopen and say, hey, you can go return home. The next thing is that if you are going into your property and it has structural damage or it has roof damage, please be careful. It is so important that you don't go inside the property and then cause yourself harm because you didn't check to see if the structure was adequate to support you, given the damage that it may have taken from wind, hail, rain, sleet, snow, whatever else may be the case. So please make sure you check the structure before entering. If you smell gas, if you smell any type of toxic fumes, if you see electrical lines or power lines touching water, if you see, damage where you think that it just is not safe for you to go in, you have to call the local authorities. You have to call your emergency services, dial 911. Obviously, they'll be inundated with calls, so you may have to be very patient. But again, do not try to be Superman or Superwoman. This is not the time for heroics. This is the time for you to be smart and the time for you to be safe. So you want to take a whole bunch of pictures. You want to take as many pictures as you possibly can. You want to take videos, and you want to reach out to your insurance provider as soon as possible to start a claim. A lot of times the insurance companies have adjusters going down to these places as soon as they find out that a natural disaster is going to hit, and they have them start working, right? But that being said, the process still can take a very long time. Insurance claims take a long time as is with no natural disaster. So if you put a natural disaster on top of that, it could take doubly longer or even more time. And so at the end of the day, please be patient, but you do want to start that process as soon as possible because there will be other people filing claims, and you want to make sure that your claim is in and that you're not at the back of the line, that you're close to the front of the line. Take detailed photos, take videos, please try to document it. And so that way you can show them, hey, in the videos you took before the disaster and the documentation, you had this, and then you can also show them the after to show the fact that it was damaged or devastated as a result. You also want to make sure that you are looking at the most important items first. And what I mean by the most important items first is that sometimes you can go to a property and it can have a small thing like a roof leak, right? And people will say, well, don't touch the roof, wait for insurance. Well, if you keep on getting water into your house, you can't live there. It's not habitable, and it's going to just cause more and more damage. And so if you do go about making repairs to the property, you want to document the repairs that you make. You want to keep detailed receipts, and you want to take pictures before, after, and you want to have those invoices available to show that you are trying to preserve the property. You don't want to make all these repairs to a property and then have nothing to show for it, and the insurance company comes out and says, oh, everything looks like it's great here. We don't have a claim here. There's no claim to be had. So just keep that in mind. If you do need to make emergency repairs to make the house habitable or just to make it so that you don't take further damage, please make sure you take pictures and you document that. You want to start by removing any debris from around your property or from around your home, down trees, trash that has been over there. And then you want to make sure that you are covering your roof if it's damaged with a tarp, or if you have windows that are broken that you're using plywood to cover them. Again, you want to protect the house so that way, one, if it's in a situation where it can still be habitable, but then number two, that you don't take on further damage unnecessarily if the property can be put back together. The last thing is that if you have taken on water damage, you want to make sure that you watch out for mold and mildew and that you are disinfecting whatever surfaces came in contact with mold or has standing water. Obviously you may want to get dehumidifiers, and then when in doubt, you want to throw it out. And what I mean by that is that I know we have furniture that we may love or like, and we think like, oh, we'll just let it dry out. But a lot of times that stuff can still have a lot of trapped moisture. It could have mold and mildew. And unfortunately, you will have to throw away things that have, microscopic organisms that could be detrimental to you and your family. Okay. And so keep that in mind. That's what you want to do during a cleanup and during after a natural disaster. The big thing I want to share with you is that this process is never easy. I personally have not been in a lot of natural disasters. Thank God for that. But I have seen them. As I said, we had a we had a tornado hit one of our properties in Griffin, Georgia, and it did cause some damage and devastation. We had roof rafters that were damaged, we had trees that were down, and we had residents who did not have power. And so at the end of the day, in that scenario, we immediately had to get the right contractors out to stop the roof damage to the property. We had to get the tree company out to remove dead trees. We had to repair damaged shingles. There was a lot to do. And we spent thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to do that. One, because we couldn't wait on the insurance. But number two, we didn't want to take further damage to the property. And we had people who were living in there. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure those people are safe, that they're sound, that they're secure, and that us as property owners are doing the right thing. And so the same thing is that you want to make sure that you address the situation the best way you can. And that way you are in a position where you are better. That being said, I also want to say that as you think about your foreclosure situation during a natural disaster, you may be in a situation where you feel like you already were grasping for straws, that, you were trying to figure out a way to keep your home, and now this disaster hit and there's no way possible for you to keep your home. Again, you can definitely reach out for help. Foreclosure help is always free from the national government. You can contact HUD, but then in a situation where you have a natural disaster, you can contact FEMA. Organizations such as FEMA, the Red Cross, and other local entities typically come into areas very, very quickly after disaster, and they're going to help with cleanup. They're going to help you finding childcare resources and things like that. Some other helpful resources include disasterassistance.gov, and basically that will help you find the closest FEMA recovery center in your area. Also, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children runs a hotline that can help you find family members if you're separated. So if you are separated from your child during an emergency, please contact that hotline for help in locating your child and reconnecting. FEMA has a ton of resources, very, very helpful. They have an app that you can download. They have kind of PDF one-pagers that you can download and keep. And again, they just have tons of great information. They are one of the best resources out there to help when natural disaster strikes. Y'all, that being said, I just want to make sure that I continue to reiterate that a natural disaster is always a terrible situation. If you find yourself facing one, I want to keep you in our thoughts and our prayers, and I hope that you are in the best possible spot and place that you can be in given their circumstances. That leads me to my bow tie round. Our bow tie round is where you, our listeners, get to tie one on with your host, DJ Olojo. The B in bow tie round stands for my best advice for somebody facing foreclosure. The O stands for one thing I'm grateful for, and the W stands for my wildest or most interesting foreclosure related story. My best advice is that if you are in a natural disaster, that you listen to the steps we just outlined to make sure that you can take the right steps to handle your foreclosure situation, but then also make sure that you're being cautious and smart and wise as you go back and re-enter your property. It is so important that you stay safe and that you don't cause yourself more damage and harm in the process of trying to enter your home. The one thing I'm grateful for, I am grateful for weather app. I can just imagine how it was in the early 1900s, or even, not even early 1900s, maybe even go back to the 1800s, when like you didn't know when like a hurricane was going to be coming your way, or you didn't know that a tornado was going to hit, and you just kind of got swept up. And so I'm grateful that as technology has advanced, as we have the ability to receive information so quickly, that people can be more prepared and more lives can be saved because of the fact that we have information and knowledge about what's going on, typically weeks, days, and sometimes, minutes before it happens. But even just that split minute could be the difference between someone being devastated by a tornado and them being able to seek safety. And so I'm just so grateful for weather apps and meteorologists, and the ability to be able to track weather all around the world, from my phone and from my computer. My wildest and most interesting foreclosure related story comes from a loan that we just are working through on the asset management side. And this is one of those sob stories. And I don't want to end the podcast on a bad note, but this is a story where someone is facing foreclosure and they have received notice after notice after notice. And eventually the lawsuit was filed. And when the lawsuit got filed, obviously it's not cheap for a lawyer to file a lawsuit, especially in a judicial state where the foreclosure process is very arduous and it needs to be very detailed. And so as a result, the borrower called in and they were very frustrated that their loan balance had jumped up by, a few $1,000s. And they were just yelling and screaming and complaining and saying, woe is me. I never got the notices. I didn't know that you all were going to file foreclosure and things like that. And ultimately, what I had to remind that person is that all the notices were delivered to the property. Someone signed, via the mail parcel, because these are sent with signature confirmation. So someone signed for it, even if it wasn't you, as another adult in the property. And so you can't abdicate your responsibility and be upset about the fees that are incurred if you didn't take the right action. And so in that scenario, she's highly upset, and she wants us to change our stance. And I'm letting her know, like, hey, I'm just the asset manager. The bank is not going to change their stance because these are fees they incurred. And so as a result, I always like to remind people that if you ignore, those fees will come back to haunt you. And that story just highlights exactly that. Y'all, if the mission to help 1 million homeowners resonates with you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and share our content with someone who you know can benefit. Y'all, we are trying to help 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure. We're trying to help them whether they are facing a natural disaster or not. And so please share our content with those who need it, and make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating. Email us any questions you have at help@theforeclosurefix.com. As always, I'm your host, DJ Olojo. I love you, and God bless you. See you soon. The views and opinions on this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. If you have a specific legal question, we highly recommend you contact a qualified legal professional.